Good afternoon, evening, everybody. Hopefully everybody's having a great day. Oh, wait, I didn't get it right. There we go. Thanks for joining us today for the DevOps Paradox live stream. Today is June the...
Nobody knows.
It is Friday. It's June the 5th. Golly. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with us today. We're doing something a little different today from a technical perspective. We're still using all the same tools, but we changed up a setting in YouTube, and we're using ultra low something. Anyway, we're near real time, so hopefully the lag won't be there like we've seen before. However, the side effect to that, ultra low latency, that's what it's called. The side effect to that is maybe you might get some more buffering than normal. If you do, that's what it is. Let us know in the comments if buffering starts getting weird. We can't change it live, but I wanted to try it out and see how it worked with StreamYard. So that's what we're doing different today. Today's news. Do we even have any news for today?
That depends whether it's tech news or other news.
No, it's tech news. Well, let's talk about something that I did see today that I thought was pretty interesting. Let me get the correct window up here. Here it goes. And you're probably hearing a big noise underneath. There was an article that came out on the 2nd from StackRox. Now, I haven't looked into them. I don't know much about them. But this title caught my eye. EKS versus GKA versus AKS, the update. I figured, okay, well, that means older. In February, they had an article. But here's the grid I like. It gives you all the different versions. It gives you all the big three providers and just Kubernetes by itself. If you're not running 16 today, you better get busy. Right?
It's the last support. It's not going to be supported for long.
And not for long, because you're already, a month into it? Is 16 already a month old? Or excuse
16.
me, 18 is already a month old.
Yeah, exactly.
So that means 16 has basically 2 months left of its survivability from a Kubernetes perspective. But you can see back here from the big three, basically it's 14, 15, and 16. So if you're doing if you're doing a new cluster today, you better be doing 16.
I mean, if you're doing a new cluster today, you're most likely do a new cluster based on whatever is the latest supported by your provider, right? It's rather the problem of when it's not a new cluster, are you really upgrading it?
Yeah, but I want to call this one out. So if you look at AKS, 15 is the default. EKS, 16 is the default. And GKE, 14 is still the default.
That's the most surprising thing for me, because GK is, in my personal opinion, ahead of anybody in terms of the quality of the service and how well Kubernetes works there. And they're always behind others.
That seems like a paradox, doesn't it? Huh.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. We forgot. Sorry. Time to get the drinks out. You probably already have yours.
I cannot drink Coke.
Wait, what'd you get today? What's yours today?
Coke, normal Coke.
Regular Coke, okay. I couldn't. Yeah. You're like 1 inch square right now, so it's really hard to see you. All right, so anyway, cheers, everybody. So that really catches you off guard, right? Because it's the most mature at least from a calendar perspective, right? As a service, most mature.
It is also a bit misleading, because what that really says is what you get by default, not really what is considered stable and the one you should use. Right. So 15 and 16 is just as stable, considered just as stable in GK as 14. It's just a strange choice that always the oldest supported one is what you default. Get if you're not specific. And actually, now when I think about it, I like it. For those of you people who do not specify explicitly which version of something they want, they should be punished. And this is maybe some unintentional punishment. You get the oldest.
Okay.
So if you're not explicit, you get something you shouldn't be getting.
Okay, but regardless, I thought this was a great grid. It gives you a good visibility of what's going on. Now, one thing that is interesting here, and not surprising, EKS doesn't have anything for 17 or 18. GKE has 17 on Rapid, but AKS has both 18 and 17 in preview. That's interesting.
Azure is always, my experience with AKS, Azure, is that they're always fastest to adopt stuff, Kubernetes related, at least.
Yeah.
I'm not really using non-Kubernetes stuff much anymore. So they're always fast. And the EKS is always the slowest one.
Yeah. And I think those are pluses and minuses. I've mentioned this before, and of course, I agree with you. GKE for an out-of-the-box experience is the simplest. However, if you take the time to set up AKS, EKS, or GKE, you can be done in 5 minutes from a work perspective. It takes longer to provision, but it's no big deal. EKS takes longer, AKS takes longer, but by the time you finish all those things and you get them all functionally equivalent, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Which is good, right?
But it kind of, in a way, defies the purpose of a service. I could just as well argue, if I actually set up cloud on myself here on premise in my own data center, it can be exactly the same as AWS. Of course.
Yeah.
Given an unlimited, great knowledge, unlimited resources and time, it can be done, right? But still, I expect the service to be intuitive and fast.
Right.
Easy.
And remember, EKS is not Kubernetes as a service. It's a control plane as a service. And that's where people get confused. Still,
they changed kind of like node pool was completely unrelated.
Correct.
Now it's something in between.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. Now, a couple of things here. If, in case you're working in at least the U.S. government, at least EKS is deployed in all GovCloud. I'm still not sure if it's been signed off on in, I can't remember the acronym. I should know it. I've done it. I've looked at it enough. It'll come to me in a minute. Now, here's the other thing is if you've been using Google, starting tomorrow, they're going to start charging you for the control plane. So if you've got a bunch of control planes running in Google right now, you might want to go kill them. If they're toys. Let's put it that way.
That's a pity. Not because of the increased cost. I think it's a pity because it will drive culture in a different direction. I like the idea that my choice of the number of clusters should not be affected by the price. Right. If I have 7 teams and I want to put them in one cluster, I put them in one cluster. If I want to put them in 7 clusters, I put them in 7 clusters. Whatever makes more sense. Now, technically, right?
Right.
But now we're talking about maybe 7 clusters would be better, but it's too expensive. So
yeah,
it's very nice when actually technical decisions are not constrained by
cash.
Financials.
Yeah.
Cash.
Now, here's one thing that I thought was pretty interesting. Was the container threat detection is now in beta, and this is specifically in GKE or GCP. I haven't looked into this yet. In fact, I haven't even clicked on this link. So where's it going? It's going to Google Cloud. Heck, let's go ahead and do it. We're live. We'll live on the edge. Okay, so let me go ahead and turn that off. So what does it mean? Beta, how it works, event information. This is going to tie into some stuff we're going to look at a little bit later. So if you're interested in this, could be interesting. Now, if you haven't joined us before, we didn't introduce ourselves either. I'm Darren. That's Victor. Where's Victor? He's below me right now. We're the co-host of a podcast called DevOps Paradox. Each Friday for right now, since we're still locked in our houses, we try to do a live stream. I usually do it on my lunch break. He's on his dinner and already started his weekend. If you haven't figured out, I don't live in Russia. I'm actually from the States. I'm from the deep South. Actually, not even the deep South. That could be argued. And Victor's over in Spain, so obviously there's a time difference. But for today, if you've got any questions, go ahead and put them over in the chat, over in the far left-hand side, or if you're on mobile, it'll be below. Here's the next thing that Victor brought to my attention today, and I had to laugh.
Or cry. Which one is it?
So, and this is from Reuters. And in fact, here, let me go ahead and sort of keep up with this because I will forget. I'm going to go and put these links down in the comments for right now for everything. Whoops. Well, maybe I won't. That doesn't look good. All right. Oh, there it is. Okay. So there's the Stack Rocks link that's coming into the chat right now. For Reuters, and all these links will also be down in the description because we may kill the chat at some point. I don't know. But for this Reuters example, France and Germany back European cloud computing moonshot. Now, a couple of things that I pulled out of this, and I'll scroll down here towards the bottom, but basically they're saying we don't want to give Silicon Valley any more money. And now this is my words, not theirs, right? So Reuters, don't get me wrong, but this one paragraph right here, and I'll go ahead and include the link down over in the chat. 22 French and German companies are going to set up a nonprofits foundation to run Gaia X. Gaia X is the code name. You live over there. Tell me, because I can't relate to this.
So there are some concerns that make a lot of sense.
Okay.
One, for example, that no matter where the data center is, it's governed by U.S. law, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Which I guess, if it would be the other way around, then the other side of the ocean would be not very happy about that, right?
Sure.
So I think that there are some issues from a legal perspective. Kind of, okay, I mean, it would make sense without me knowing anything about law to say, okay, if it's in Germany, then it's actually under German law, not
right.
under US law.
Right. This should be an apolitical issue at this. What we're discussing at this very moment is an apolitical issue. Where data resides is where it should be governed.
Exactly.
That seems reasonable. I don't care who you are or what other beliefs you subscribe to. That seems logical.
And that kind of like where, I mean, not even where data is a bit problem. So there are two issues. Who governs the policy of a data center, or
right,
how it operates and stuff like that? That is a potentially huge issue. Now for Europe, there is another issue, is that, there are laws that kind of like, it needs to be in my country, and there are like 50 or 100 countries in Europe, and you cannot have data center in each one of them. But that's really not that. That's something you cannot solve. You cannot build a data center in every single city or something like that. But yeah, the laws are a problem. Now, the thing is that you probably have political means to actually change that problem, right? I don't know, just make a law in Germany saying if the data center is here, it doesn't matter whether it belongs to Amazon, it needs to be governed by German law or whatever. I'm inventing this now, but it's certainly solvable. Now, first of all, there was at least one or two such initiatives in the past, and they failed miserably. You don't hear about them because nobody dares to talk about them. That's how miserable they were. And, when did you? I never saw anything being successful by being consortium of many companies, non-profit type of, and then we are all going to sit once a month in a room and sing Kumbaya, and then after a year we will have a successful cloud. That's not going to happen, right? You need to have a selfish business interests for something like that to happen, right?
Yes.
There have been literally selfish business interests, so that your interests are to compete with others, like with Amazon and AWS, and that will make you better. Now, if you don't compete with anybody, if you have people using your cloud because simply government forces them directly or indirectly to do that, then you have no initiative to make it great.
Right, because it's all government mandates to make these things happen.
Yeah, and consortium, it will be I don't know, 12 companies, right? They're going to try to find a solution that works for absolutely everybody, which will be a solution that works for absolutely nobody.
Yes.
And on top of that, the people working in those companies, those that are exceptionally good and could do that, they were already offered a lot of money a long time ago by Microsoft and Azure and Google. They're not in those companies. So kind of like those geniuses are not in those companies. And I doubt that that consortium is going to have, I don't know, like a budget. Oh, we're going to bring a CTO from Amazon to set it up, and we're going to give him, I don't know, like 3 trucks full of money, right? Which is what you need to do these days to get this person. So it's not going to work. It's just a waste of my money, because it's waste of taxpayers' money.
Taxpayer money. Yeah. Now, I will say, so there was one other section here. It says, one important concept underpinning Gaia X is reversibility. Basically, you could easily switch providers, no problem. So you've got 21 providers that are going to be offering the exact same thing. My words, not what they're saying here, but I'm sort of extrapolating something for a moment. First services are due to be offered in 2021. Now let's go back to what the first services were that were offered by the big 3. What were they? Do you know?
The big 3.
Yeah. What were the first 2 services offered by the big 3 out of the gate? A VM?
I'm guessing, I'm guessing now. VM, and then second must be, I'm going to put 3, right? VM, networking, storage.
Yep.
Did I guess it right?
Yes, you did.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. That's
you have to have network in order to have a VM, and you have to have storage to back the VM. But that was it.
Yeah.
Now, they're saying those first services are due in 2021. Now, if you go back in time with AWS, those first 3 services launched in roughly 2007, if my memory serves correctly. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but that's 14 years. Now, lots have changed in 14 years. Are these 21 providers going to be able to come together, build their own networking hardware, their own compute, just like Google and Azure, Amazon and Microsoft are doing today? The answer is, in my opinion, no.
I'm willing to make a bet now, 100 to 1.
Okay, go ahead.
Any amount you want, that's going to be a failure within a year.
Okay.
100 to 1, it's a good bet.
Okay. I'll take that. Actually, I don't know. I'll take that. All right. So, and this actually leads into, you sort of leaned into it in what you were just talking about there. And if you've got any questions or comments, go ahead and drop them over in the chat. You were talking about private helping public. You didn't say it directly, but something along those lines. In the States last week, we had it was the Demo 2 SpaceX NASA mission. Two Americans launched from an American spaceport on an American ship, right? Big American stuff. You might hate America. That's okay. But that was a big deal to us. But the only reason that worked is that it was private working with public. I'm not giving thumbs up because it's thumbs up, but because those two came together, there's no way that NASA by themselves could have done that.
And vice versa.
And there's and there's no way SpaceX could have done it because they needed the facilities that were there.
Not only facilities, but
the knowledge.
I think and knowledge. But there is something that is, in my opinion, more important. There are simply things that should be done, but that are not commercially viable.
Correct.
Right. So NASA pours a lot of finances into, from what I understood, into private companies. Right.
Yeah.
Those private companies, it's quite possible that SpaceX, without financial support also from NASA, would never see interest in actually doing that.
Right.
Right. Maybe I'm wrong about SpaceX, and then I can find another example. But there are some things. There is, for example, a lot of science projects going on in the world that are very beneficial for humanity, maybe, but not necessarily ever going to be commercially viable, right? So I like that role of public jumping into for the things that are not necessarily good for private,
right,
or exclusively private. That's how I see that division, right?
Yeah, and what's interesting, at least from the U.S. perspective, is we have SpaceX, we have Boeing, and I think Jeff Bezos's company. I can't remember the name of that one. And there's a couple other smaller ones, but those are roughly the big three working in space in the U.S. right now. And I think, I mean, I'm a kid of the 60s. So I remember, I mean, I was literally a kid in the 60s. So I remember the launch when the man landed on the moon. I was small, but I remember it. And I'm excited about that day. I hope everybody in the world is excited about, getting back to the moon. The stretch to go to Mars, okay, I'm not there yet. It would be super cool. I don't know that'll happen in my lifetime, maybe. I mean, technology is getting faster and faster, so it might happen. But it took SpaceX roughly 10 years. I don't remember the exact number, but roughly 10 years to get to this crewed mission, meaning 2 astronauts on board. Right? So
Yeah. But
I think it's cool.
I must admit that I'm not really excited about it. I kind of like, in my head, that's kind of like, we did it kind of 40 years ago. Bring me something new.
Well,
put yourself, I don't know, go to Mars, something, right?
Yeah.
Simulate. Say that I put humans kind of 100 kilometers beyond moon, kind of like,
Yeah.
That's something new, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it would be good to get back to the moon, and then use that as a launching point, a waypoint to Mars. I don't know if that's their plan. I don't know. Who cares? It's if I get to see it in my lifetime, that would be super cool. But I was rewatching, not the whole launch, but I didn't see the lead up to the launch. But there was a phrase by Christina Koch, go Wolfpack. But she went to the same university I went to. That there was a phrase that she used called dissimilar redundancy, and that just sounded like a cool phrase to me. I mean, in tech, we're used to hearing fault tolerance, high availability, all these other things, but I heard dissimilar redundancy. I went, man, what's that about? So I went and looked it up, and it's a big thing in avionics. And I've got the article. I'll put it in the description below after we're done today. But it explains it, and I'm going to mess up the numbers, but it's roughly like this: the not the Boeing, help me. The Boeing 777 has 3 systems built on different hardware, built on different software, running on different control channels, but all still do the same thing. They're there for backup. So it's not like today to where, hey, I've got a GKE cluster in East and I got a GKE cluster in West. Is that even possible? I meant to say EKS, but they got East and West, right? I can't remember the regions for
Everybody has US East and West. Kind of.
Yeah.
That's the only
consistency. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but to me, that gets you, to me, that's similar redundancy.
Yeah.
Victor and I were talking about this before we started today. The way you would do dissimilar redundancy is I'm running my application on AWS's Lambda in East, and I'm using Azure Functions in West. And I'm using Node in AWS, and I'm using C# in West. Completely different everything, but they still can fail over and still do the same thing.
Yeah.
Now, there's no way I can make a business case for that, for software.
So exactly, you would go bankrupt after 3 months, so it wouldn't be happening anyway.
But for planes, for the avionics, it's a big deal in the avionics industry. I get it there. I'm trying to figure out, could we make a business case for it in what we do today?
It really depends on how dissimilar that is. It's not really completely opposite redundancy, kind of like we use electricity here, coal there. We use metal here and plastic there. It's not completely different, right? So it's about having more dissimilar redundancy, maybe.
Right.
That would be the expression, right? And in that case, you can say running a cluster in AWS and in the AKS makes sense, kind of like that's getting closer. Maybe not that far, maybe further, maybe less far, but it's in that direction, right?
Yeah.
But you always need to make choices, kind of like how far does it make sense?
Right.
Like running a Kubernetes cluster in 2 providers, that's almost a no-brainer, assuming that you have a sufficient scale to
justify it. Yeah.
To justify it. It makes it's almost a no-brainer to me for the scale.
Yep. So it's interesting because, I have a sinking suspicion that at some point this is going to pop up into what we do. I just can't justify it yet.
I'm certain it's going to become a norm, right? It just takes, you can almost you can almost predict the next steps, what is going to be in by simply what is getting sufficient traction within a small number of unicorn companies today, right?
Right.
Everybody's talking about hybrid cloud. Most of the companies are talking about it. They're not doing it. They're lying, simulating instead of doing it. But it will become a thing. Companies, and we have those debates, kind of cloud or on-prem, which one makes more sense? And then there are arguments for both. I could imagine that not long from now, on-prem and cloud will become a norm. And in parallel with that, maybe a bit sooner, maybe later, I'm also pretty sure that companies will be running in multiple clouds, not necessarily for the same reasons as Boeing, but to leverage the benefits of those clouds, right?
Right.
I think that we are now almost to the point where most clouds are more or less the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we will see them focusing now. No, kind of, we solved we all solved the same major problems. Now we're going, I don't know, Google is going to focus on, I'm inventing now, machine learning, and it's going to do it better. And then Azure is going to have your Office 365. Whatever the reasons are, you will be using multiple providers. Just like for software, right? Nobody uses only one provider for their software today.
Right. If this is the business idea of the weekend, so if you have some spare time this weekend, go ahead and do this and launch your business Monday. Create a dashboard. I'm using dashboard very broadly, that makes it simple to run your business agnostically. You take care of the heavy lifting of wherever it needs to land. Let's go back to our France, Germany, Reuters post a few moments ago.
What about it?
Well, no, I want to make sure that my data let's say I'm running, let me just keep it in the US for a moment because it'll make it a little bit simpler. Let's say I've got an office in Ohio, and I've got an office in Oregon, and I've got an office in Dallas.
Okay.
And I want to have my data local to each of those facilities because I'm doing high transaction processing. So I want the pipe between my office and that to be as fast as possible without having to do direct. I want basically public internet access really fast to that data center. Yeah. So that means that data center, that availability zone has to be very physically close to my office.
Yes.
This is a very contrived example. Well, I know that I can use Azure in Dallas, and I can use AWS for the other two in Oregon and in Ohio because they're right near my office. I mean, I can look out my window and I can see those data centers. Ignoring the routing issues and everything, latencies and stuff, right? That could work. Now you globalize that gets back to France and Germany. They're wanting to keep things inside the roughly, I would guess, the EU border. Is that a correct way to say it? Is that how you read that article? Okay.
It's data center or cloud, let's say, for EU. And just to clarify, those 21 companies or whatever the number is, they're already small provider of hosting providers, right?
Right.
Those are the businesses operating there. It just kind of, now they're going to unify them. That's the problematic part.
Yeah. So going back to my business in the box for the weekend, you come up with a way to where people don't care if they're running AWS or Azure or Google. You're providing a service that, hey, this is the simplest way. So if there's a failure of a service in Azure, you've already got a plan in your business plan. You know how to automatically make that flow over to either AWS or Google, whoever has the best pricing right now. This gets back to pricing. Maybe you're doing, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe you're trading on futures and figuring out what pricing is in order to figure out where's the cheapest place to go run. Let's say you're running everything on spot-based things. You're chasing the cloud, figuring out where to run it.
Yeah.
And then you're passing that along. You're marketing it up 10%. You're keeping that 10% for yourself. And you're passing on whatever that final cost is, which is still going to be cheaper in the end run to your clients. I mean,
He-
nobody's
here's a-
nobody's going to keep a 10% profit. But I'm just using what I consider
also-
a starting point.
It's a good negotiating tactic, right? If you run a majority in AWS and you go to AWS and say, right now I'm running 10% in Azure,
Yeah.
they're going to drop your prices. I guarantee you that. 100%.
Yep.
You need to demonstrate just that you're serious.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. Just play them against each other.
Everything's negotiable.
Yeah.
I won't go any further than that. Okay. I got one more thing, and then we're just going to sort of freestyle it. For everybody else that's coming in, thanks for joining us today. If you got any questions or comments, go ahead and drop them over in the chat. I found this interesting. I'm not going to call it a project. It is on GitHub. It's put out by DeepFence. I haven't run it yet, but it's the DeepFence Runtime Threat Mapper. This is part of their bigger offering. So this is a community edition. I don't see, okay, it does have a license file. Let's see what it says. It is the DeepFence license. So I'm not saying use it or not use it. Read the license, make sure you know what you're getting into. That being said, what's interesting is basic architecture of, now I am going to joke here in a moment, just fair warning. So basically you run this console and then you have agents that are running wherever, whether it's in Kubernetes, Linux, or even in serverless. And here's the feature comparison between the community edition and their enterprise pay me money type stuff. Now, big long list, but that's okay. But here's the more interesting picture. Right, so I've got AWS reporting into this console. I've got Google reporting into this console. And then I can start doing threat analysis. But what their line that I thought was interesting was actually in the very first sentence. Let me get back up top here. Where was it? Subset. It was, okay, I'll find it here in just a second. Sorry, I messed up. I was trying to be cool, but I messed up. So basically, I think it's down below. This was what I was going to joke about. They have a Docker Compose file to spin it all up.
Shut it down. Turn it off. Immediately.
No, I'm going to keep going.
Docker run. Come on. Okay. There was Helm install. I saw
yeah, they have a Helm install too. Well, that's for the agent. These are for the agents. I'm talking about for the console. This is the management console. They have a Docker Compose file for it. Excuse me. Now, I read a line in here and I can't find it. It gives you some visualization, topologies, all the other cool stuff. But they had a line in here and I can't find it. It's basically to give you the ability to really figure out what are the things that matter. Because not all threats are created equal. I wish I could find, I should have highlighted that line. No, I can't find it. But anyway, this looks interesting. Compared to, especially if the community edition gets me something along the lines of, and I'm not comparing it, I haven't loaded it yet, but something along the lines of either white source, twist lock, somewhere in there. If it at least gives me a ballpark, right? It's at least something to consider. Again, I haven't loaded it. They're not paying us. It just looks interesting.
To be honest, I mean, I'm not really deep into that area, so I cannot really say many reasonable things or intelligent ones. But one thing that I thought in the past, when I was much more involved, the thing I was always missing is actually to give me an intelligent answer when I should bother.
Right? And there was a line.
I don't know how it's situation today, but in the past was, yes, you have 57,000 vulnerabilities. So okay, so what do you want me to do?
Yeah,
I'm not going to fix 57,000 something. Tell me what matters and what is less relevant. And I don't, and then they say, oh, we have severity, high and medium and low, and everything is always high. And that always bothered me in the past, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I don't know how advanced it is today.
How about a week ago? Because I've seen reports recently that are like that. Hey, we need all these things remediated right now before we do anything. You're not going to be able to do that. I mean, come on. I mean, and as soon as you do that, something gets updated, and now you got to go back through the whole remediation stuff again, and it's just not.
Exactly. And I think it's a similar situation as with testing. It really depends on which level you are.
Yeah.
So if your tests are passing all the time, then whatever new comes along, that will be relatively easy to handle, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with vulnerabilities. If your system right now, this moment, has 0 vulnerabilities, then from now on, you will be able to keep up to date, probably, right? It's highly unlikely that a change tomorrow will change from 0 to 1,000 vulnerabilities. Now, the problem I have is with companies who never got close to 0, and they always have thousands, and kind of like, and you don't know where to start. It's same like tests, when you're probably meeting companies where, 27% of the tests are failing, and that's better because it was 28 before.
Yeah, our tests are failing. Well, we just comment them out. We don't actually fix the test. We don't have time to fix the test because we're writing new code.
Yeah. But it's also kind of, I think it always boils down to the sheer volume of something, right?
Yeah.
If you're in such a bad shape that actually fixing your tests would take you 2 years of dedicated work, then let me be honest, I would give up. I would just give.
Yeah.
I mean, in my case, I would give up and go somewhere else to work. But simply, it's too big for any human to handle.
The math is, let's say you're breaking down. Let's say you had a monolith and you were going in microservices, and within that monolith you had 1,000 endpoints. Actually, let's use Istio. I can't remember their number, but it was like what? How many endpoints did Istio have? A few hundred, right? It was a few hundred.
Something like that.
All right. So, and I'm not playing out, but I'm going to pick on Istio here for just a second because we love Istio, but if you haven't heard, they were a monolith. They went microservices. Now they're going back to monolith. That's the only thing I'm saying. But going back earlier, let's say I have 200 endpoints, and it's going to take me roughly 2 weeks to replace an endpoint from the monolith to the microservice. Right? I have 200 endpoints. It takes me 2 weeks. That takes me 400 weeks. Exactly. 400 man weeks. Now, again, I'm not a rocket scientist, but if you only got one person working on it, that's going to take you 8 years to get that done. Are you telling me you're not going to make any business changes in 8 years?
Exactly. So it's all about, I mean, and I think that's actually where industry general, not vulnerabilities, is really, I think that might be the next next barrier that kind of like, how do you distinguish what matters? We'll probably start I suspect that, and I know that already, companies will continue popping up, that have some AI in the name or machine learning in the name.
Yeah.
I think that they're all ridiculous right now, but that will probably become reality. Being able to tell you what to do. I think we need that.
Well, we already have a tool to do that for us. It's called Excel.
Yeah, but I want a tool that actually makes those decisions, not keep present them.
I know, it's a joke. Not really. So those were the big items. I wish I could have found that line because I think somewhere on the page there was a line that says basically, hey, we tell you about the stuff that actually really matters. The other things you should probably deal with them, but it was something. It may have been on their site. I don't remember where it was. I should have captured that. But this looks interesting because if you don't have the money or you don't have the know-how, spin this sucker up. See what happens. See what you find inside. You might be surprised. You might not be surprised. But then you have information, and then you can decide if you want to take action on the information. Because you're using them as you're using DeepFence specifically as your source of truth for this data. Now they may be sourcing the data from somewhere else. I'm sure they are. But
that's the thing. Data is not a problem. There is plenty of data.
There's an exorbitant amount of data.
But you know what you need to do next, Darin?
What?
You need to put it to do.md.
Okay, I'll do that. I won't pull that up here. If you don't know what to do.md is, We have a new course that just came out a couple of weeks ago that is called DevOps Toolkit Fact. Keep talking. I'll pull it up. What's it called?
Yeah, DevOps Toolkit Catalog Patterns, Blueprints, something like that.
You don't even know what it is either, so it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, but actually, if you read it or listen to it, at the very beginning, it says literally that. We don't know what this is.
Yeah.
We have no idea. But
it's actually, I think we launched it last week.
yeah.
So there's a video course. There's also a book. If you buy the course on Udemy, send Victor how do we want to do it? In Slack or email, whatever, to Victor, and he'll send you the book. Right? Yes. We can't do it the other way around. We can't have you buy a book and then give you a Udemy thing. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But it's no big deal. So don't think you got to buy both of them. If you want to buy both of them, thank you. I mean, that just means more sodas and maybe Red Bull for Victor. But this is where I think defense may come in. This may be an interesting one to put in there because I haven't seen anybody else make this kind of offering, at least in a community edition. Being careful because it's not open source. It is a community edition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily have strong opinion that it needs to be open source.
No,
I think it's good, but let's start with I use AWS and I use Google, and they're not open source kind of.
Yeah.
It's just about whether the price is right, and I think that the right price for me to evaluate something is nothing.
Yeah, if it's zero,
yeah. I mean, I reject, actually. To be honest, I reject to evaluate anything that costs money, unless it's a service, because then I understand that there is some hardware involved, right? But I don't evaluate anything that costs money. But I'm quite okay if a company will be using that. No, there is a value for all of us to use it and to pay money. That's to me perfectly okay. But evaluation that is not for free, that's not going to happen in my case.
Yeah, like going back down here, it only gives you ability to run it up against 100 hosts. Look, if you're running a 100 host cluster or 100 instances, you have money. Or you forgot to shut stuff off, one or the other.
Exactly. I mean, then if you run that something on over 100 hosts, then actually it has a business value for you.
Yeah. And then again, I haven't looked at their pricing. I don't know anything about defense specifically. This just jumped out at me. It looked very interesting. And, then there's the other stuff. But again, it's community edition, not open source, but that's okay. I can install it for free, use it for free as community. If it helps me out and I'm hitting the limits, well, guess what? Now I get to buy. Yeah. That's an easy example. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm getting a call from my mom. Do you want to talk for a minute while I talk to her?
I can talk for a minute. I don't know.
Okay.
Let's
do that. Yeah, I'm gonna put you on. Yeah, just talk about something for a few minutes.
I can
talk about the course.
Yeah. Okay, about the course. So the whole idea is really we have no idea what's the idea, to be honest. Except that in very general term, we thought that we got bored with kind of spending a year exploring a single tool or something like that. So it's some form of a catalog, of a Bible. And so we would be releasing every week, few weeks, maybe every month, a new tool, new process, or new something. So it will grow with time, right? So right now there are only three sections. There will be more and more and more. I think that we will add the new one probably sometime next week. So the whole idea is explore things that matter, explore things that are cool, that are useful, that make sense in 2020. And the important part, and we already received a lot of feedback. Now, this is the most important part. Just kind of let us know what tool, which process, what area, anything that you want us to explore, and we'll do it. Most likely, maybe not. When I say maybe not, because if there are many requests, there is a limit to how much we can do. But if there are many requests, then whichever one is more sought after is what we're going to tackle next, right? But basically, it's unlimited scope. That's the idea. And we are having a lot of fun with it. That's the most important thing. And also, another important thing is that it's not kind of like I'm going to read it for 3 weeks until I figure out what it is, not deep dive, just like 1 hour, 2 hours max of dedication for something to figure out whether that is something is useful for you, and done in a very practical manner, kind of like through hands-on examples. 2 hours of hands-on examples, and you have enough knowledge to make a decision whether to go that deeper or not. Let's see comments. Unlike Darin, who knows how to put comments on the screen, I don't know how to do that, so I'm going to read them. Hi, Victor. The new course is great initiative. Thank you so much. Concise videos, start straight to the point. Really appreciate it. Hope more will be added. Yes, the last thing is important. More will be added. That's a guarantee, 100%. Now, I don't know. At one moment, everything needs to end, but for at least a year, if not longer, we will be adding stuff there. And also, if anybody wants to contribute, just let us know. We add you to the repo and contribute in any form of way you like. It's a way to explore things, especially things that we haven't necessarily used or went deep into and stuff like that. So that's kind of the goal. Make a Bible of the DevOps tools, even though I still claim I don't know what DevOps is. With short, concise, production-ready examples. Everything is production-ready. That's the important thing. So, any other comments or questions? Anything? You see, without Darin, I don't know what to talk about. Given once, given twice. No questions.
I'm back.
There's Darin.
Sorry.
I just said, without Darin, I don't know what to talk about.
Okay. So, sorry about that, y'all.
Yeah, we got a very nice comment from.
Yeah, I see it. In fact, I'll go ahead and put it up right there. Hi, Victor.
I also commented that I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you can't. Sorry. I have to do it on my side.
He doesn't trust me enough to allow me to do that.
I don't think it's possible. It's not a trust problem. I think you're just not the host, so you can't do it. And I can't make both of us hosts.
You're saying the same thing that every single manager says when they're pressed, kind of like, why we cannot do that? Because I say so. Why we cannot do it? Because I say so. Why we cannot do it? It's not possible.
Yeah. Well, it's not possible that I can tell. I can dig into that later. But anyway, sorry about that, everybody. My mom called, and I don't miss calls. She never calls me during the day. So everything's good. Important. Everything's good. It's just, I had to answer it. So you went through all that. I actually had you in one of my ears. I was listening so I could hear things, but I wasn't paying much attention. Sorry. You went through all the things. You talked about that.
Explain the course and stuff.
Explain the course. So what else is happening in the world of Kubernetes that we didn't talk about this week?
I haven't discovered anything truly new this week. I think that outside of the office job, dealing with all the things we need to do at work, I was fully focused on on the next section. Next section is, I'm going to force everybody to use the development environment exactly the same way as I do it. And this is the interesting part, I'm not even explaining in depth why that is better than something else. I'm becoming like, how do you call that? Not a king, like authoritarian regime leader, right?
Dictator.
This is the environment I use. Dictator. This is the environment I use. You need to set up this, and that for no obvious reason except that I'm doing it.
Okay.
That's the next level in kind of like teaching people, right?
Yeah. So this just came out. I just happened to see this come across.
Yes, that's a big one.
Is that an understatement?
No.
Is it bigger than big?
Ingress was always a weak point, I think, in Kubernetes. too limiting, too simple, not standardized enough,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. And I think that work on improving that was planned for a very, very long time.
Yeah. But how bad is that going to break things?
I mean, depends
That's
what
going to
you
be
mean by
left up.
break.
It's going to be left up to the Ingress creators, right? If they decide to.
And sometimes things break, but Kubernetes is actually really good with the versioning APIs, right? It will be V2 or whatever they're going to version. The most likely cause of breaking is that they're going to deprecate at one moment the old stuff, and then a year later, it's going to break everybody's clusters because people are not following on deprecation notices. That's the real issue.
Yeah.
I had the same problem with deployments, for example. To be honest, I had them V1 beta 2 or something like that for a so long time until somebody called me and said that this doesn't work.
Right. And it's like, oh, they changed it all. They removed it finally.
Wait, a year late. So they changed it for a year, right, Carol? That's how old and what I did, and I'm pretty sure that everybody does it, but nobody wants to comment, is that once you do something once or twice, then you copy and paste your own stuff.
Yep. Instead of actually looking to see what the current version is supposed to be. Yeah. Oh, well. That happened to us with that Istio thing. Well, unless we got anything else, do you want to call it a day early?
We can call it a day.
Okay. If there's any other questions, I'm not actually watching live, so I can wait about 5 seconds because I think it's about right. So if there's any other questions, drop them in the chat. If not, the plan is to be here again next Friday at some point in time. We don't know exactly when. Always depends on scheduling. Victor's is easy because his day is roughly already over, usually. Right? Usually Friday evenings. Yeah, officially, yes. In reality, may not be. But usually your Friday evenings are pretty free anyway.
Yes. Exactly.
Mine, because it's still midday. Oh, yeah. So, Neil, so the question is, do we post this afterwards? As soon as this stream is over, you can watch it again right immediately. We don't do anything, so it's just on YouTube, and you can just watch it right again. In fact, if you're watching right now, you could go ahead and rewind all the way to the front, and little secret, you can watch it at 1.5 or 2 times speed. I sound really funny at 2 times speed. Victor still sounds normal.
I sound funny in a normal speed, so
right. Well, you sound funny at a normal speed, and when it goes 2x, you still sound the same. Me, I sound like a chipmunk when I go double X. Okay. So, so if you ever want to watch these back, they're always on YouTube. It's the same link. If you'd subscribe to it, if not, always just go to youtube.com/DevOps Paradox, and you'll see the lives there as well. I'm trying to get the playlists set up right so you can go look at all the lives versus the post of the podcast. We're also getting ready to put out some videos. We haven't started recording them yet. But like one of them is going to be Victor teaching Darren how to use VS Code the right way.
Exactly.
And I guess we'll start working on Deep Fence. I got to add that in after we're done today, after I get the rest of my day job done. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Pretty interesting conversation. If you have data in France or Germany, you might want to get it out of there. I'm not there. I can say that. I don't know how that's going to play out. And if you are watching this at the end, the links that we discussed today are going to be down in the description. If you look over in the chat, there's a couple over there. If the chat's gone, look down below. You'll see the links to what we talked about today. I think that's it. That's it. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll talk to you next week.
Yeah.